Alright, making a video. Okay, so... Alright, so Hythloday's made a response video where he's contending he's making the argument, which he's not. Explaining how I've made this logical error, this circular reasoning. Because well, I'll play his video and we'll do this nonsense. But it's, you know, again, he just doesn't pay any attention to what I say and instead just decides he's going to lie about what I did. Yeah, that's all. He's just a liar. Logic rolls the dice. It's hilarious here. Two comments, of course. His argument is a blunt assertion. Yes, the blunt assertion is I've experienced consciousness and am aware of what sensations are. Yeah. Riddled with incoherence and political rhetoric. The political rhetoric is what? I recognize that negative sensations are bad, and for myself, I'm going to make sure I don't experience them if I can avoid it. And I'm merely making the argument that I have no logical reason not to do the same for anyone else experiencing those negative sensations. It's the sensations that are bad, and whoever's experiencing them, the badness is the same. That's a logical truth. You say that's political rhetoric. There's no explanation of the politics in there. And I guess it's incoherent to you. You don't understand. Okay, you're stupid. I already knew that, though. I hope you've seen my response to Amendum. So he's actually proud of that awful video. I mean, the jump cut, stupid had this talk over himself video where he doesn't say anything. Does he say something reasonable, sensible? I didn't see it. I played it and I didn't see it. Oh dear, trick. Yeah, well, this video might just go to hell right here. Yeah, so I'll play. I'm going to read Trick's. I mean, Trick can go fuck himself as far as I'm concerned. I mean, this doesn't make any sense, okay? He's basically saying, look, I don't have a logical defense for the argument I'm making. And you really don't. I mean, even Benatar is establishing the existence of this ought created by the fact of bad. I mean, if you're going to say bad doesn't have an ought connected to it, then it's not really bad. And I guess I would analogize it to, it's like a circumstance. Somebody's off to go raping, and all you have to do is say, don't do it. Now, if you don't say don't do it, you facilitate the rape, correct? I mean, you're an integral part of the rape because you allowed it to take place because you wouldn't utter the words, don't do it. So, in my opinion, the negative establishes the ought because essentially you're responsible for the negative if you don't fix it. If you can fix it and you don't fix it, you're responsible for it. If it's drowning and all you have to do is throw it a lifesaver, you know, just flip it off the roll, and you don't do it, you facilitated the drowning. You made it happen because you didn't stop it. This is the truth. Now it's your negative. And there's no way you can just say, if I caused it to happen, I wouldn't be responsible for it. That you'd have to do some good to compensate for the bad you did. So my argument is, if you don't prevent a harm, if you don't do what you can to stop a harm, if what you can is a minor thing to do, then you have to do some good to compensate for that bad, or you are a bad person. Period. And that's where the logical imperative comes from. Being a bad person can't be described as an acceptable goal. Running a deficit in your life, creating more negative than positive, can't be described as an acceptable goal. Alright, badness is inferred. Oh, he's just so fucking irritating. Badness is inferred. No, it's not inferred. It happens when you have the experience. Again, Helen Keller didn't need the word bad. Helen Keller didn't need the word suffering. Helen Keller didn't need a fucking word. She knew what bad was. She knew what good was. She knew what comfortable was. She knew what uncomfortable was. She didn't need any fucking word. The fucking sensations say it. In any language, they say it. They say it in all languages. They say it in their very experience of it. Fucking idiot. And many others. E.g., if such experiences can infer, such as not bad or good, experimental payoff, it must be describing something other than suffering. Well, not bad and good really wouldn't be, they could describe something that's nothing. So again, you've put suffering in the same category as nothing again. Idiot. Suffering is a word that describes an experience type. Yeah, a negative experience type that Helen Keller knew as negative. If I were to ask you to define sweet taste, you simply cannot do it without referring to the experience itself. E.g., what one experiences when eating sugar, honey, etc. People understand the definition because it describes something they have a little familiarity with through intersubjectivity. They don't need intersubjectivity. They need just personal experience. They don't need one single other person to confirm their experience. If there's only one individual in the world and he eats a piece of candy, it's going to be just fucking as sweet. He doesn't need a crowd to intersubjectively agree with him that it's sweet. Idiot. The experience, however, doesn't not exist just because it is a way we must describe such. Oh, this is just so idiotic. Quite obviously, the experience doesn't not exist. The word is just a label used to describe the experience. The experience is the reality. The word is just a fucking word used to describe the experience. Bad is a word used to describe bad sensations. Negative sensations. Sensations you do not want to re-experience. Just because, for example, we cannot describe sweet taste to someone who is born without taste buds doesn't mean the word sweet isn't a descriptive word that differentiates sour from some other type of taste. Well, again, it doesn't mean anything to somebody who doesn't have taste buds. So, frankly, the word does not mean anything to somebody without taste buds. Without a reference, they will have no meaning to the word. They can't know the word. Nobody can know bad unless they have felt and understand the feelings that are badness. Likewise, the badness of suffering is described through the very mechanism of our understanding of what kind of experience the word suffering refers to. The experience is the definition. The experience defines itself. Pain defines itself. It doesn't need us to label it. It doesn't need us to qualify it or analogize it or do any of that shit. It says it loud and fucking clear what it is. I'm bad. That's what it says when you experience it, no doubt about it. Your demand to define such outside of experience itself is no different than the demand that if I cannot define sweetness outside the experience. Well, of course, I've already made this argument, though, Trick, so why don't you just say, well, Emendam's already informed you that he can't possibly explain in vocabulary a concept only people who are using the vocabulary have experienced. If you can't have sensations, nobody can explain a feeling to you because you have to actually feel one. You have to sample something like it. And there is nothing like it. That I cannot assert it as a descriptive ontological fact that people experience sweetness, that sweetness exists. That I cannot assert it is a descriptive ontological fact that people experience sweetness. I cannot define sweetness outside the experience. That I cannot assert, well, fuck that. Of course, that is too high of an unacceptable criteria when we are addressing experimental state descriptions. Experiential state descriptions. Of course, that is too high of an unacceptable criteria when we are addressing experiential state descriptions. Fuck. That being said, I agree with you that the ought cannot be derived without a contingent goal. There we go. Of badness reduction. Again, and where does the badness reduction goal come from? Idiot. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm just going to say idiot. If it isn't a basic function of the bad, negative number, where else are you going to derive it from? If it isn't on its face, like numbers, the value is on its face, the necessity to get rid of it is on its face, it will destroy the value of any good you have if you don't get rid of it. E.g., the goal to be an ethical agent. Again, having it be nonsensical, incoherent to the math, to the very concept of the idea that you're saying, well, look, it's, you know, you don't have to call something an economy for it to be an economy. The truth is, it just reeks of it. Your balance is either in the black or you're in the red. And it's just, that has to be accepted as an axiom. There's no logic that can defend that. It's the very nature of the negative condition that it is a non-acceptable condition. It's in its nature. It's not in something else. So if you either recognize its nature or you don't. But I don't see how you can make any logical arguments about anything ethical if you're going to argue there's no ought. That negative numbers aren't intrinsically oughty. Negative conditions aren't intrinsically oughty. If it's a true negative, to have any meaning as a negative, it has to have an ought. If it doesn't make an ought, it's not a negative. Idiot. Love the new look. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm just sick of the nihilist, and Trick's just another fucking verbose bullshitters. This is just bullshit. I don't know that bad. I can personally, like I said, if you're going to show me an individual who personally doesn't pay attention to how good or bad he feels, then go ahead and make your argument. But until you find that person, no one is an acceptable candidate for this I can't find the ought crap. Because they certainly can motherfucking find it when it's happening to them. If I'm sticking the nail in their fucking eye, they can find the ought. Now how come they can find it when I'm sticking it in their eye and they can't find it when I'm sticking it in somebody else's eye? That's my question, you fucking cunt. The ought is very visible when I got the nail right up to their eye. Fucking bullshit. So anyway. Alright, he's got a shitty microphone still. I mean, he's just too stupid to even fix that.
He has experiences, conscious experiences, and he categorizes them as good and bad. How does he categorize them? Well, really we should step back. He arrives on Earth, he writes the dictionary, all he gets...
Okay, so he's saying I need a dictionary. So he's saying Helen Keller didn't know the difference between feeling good and feeling bad, but she didn't have language. She didn't understand language, so she didn't know the difference between good and bad. A dog doesn't know the difference between being kicked and hit and being fed dinner and petted. They don't know what those are conceptually until you give them a word to put on it. Is that your argument? So it's your argument that I actually went to a dictionary? I needed to go to a dictionary to find good and bad? I didn't have them defined for me by experience itself? That's your argument? You're saying I'm lying? That I actually went to a dictionary to find out what good and bad meant? Well, I didn't. So you're making another false accusation, shithead. Shittier head. Hash mark head.
Dictionary, with the definition of good and bad. He has his feelings, and he says, these are good and bad. Then he notices other people how should I behave? And then
That's not what I said. I didn't say how shall I behave. I didn't make that argument at all. I just drew the simple conclusion that they're doing the same thing I'm doing, that they're having good and bad experiences. So again, you can't paraphrase honestly ever, because you can't make a fair argument, because you're not about justice, you're about injustice. You're the anti-justice league.
he opens his dictionary again and he says, oh, good and bad feelings in anybody. I know must be preserved, must be protected, must be minimized.
So again, just a complete misparaphrase. I never said it must be minimized. I just said that if I'm going to minimize mine, if mine are important, theirs have to be important. Because the sensation itself is the same thing. There's no difference in the experience. The experience is bad. It doesn't matter where bad is happening. That was my simple logical contention. Why would I have no logical reason to think bad is really bad when it happens to me, and it's only pretending to be bad when it's happening to somebody else. That wouldn't be logical. I have no reason to think my bad, which I'm very, very conscious of and very, very aware of how much I don't want to experience bad. And I have no logical reason to think bad in somebody else is anything different than that.
And if you say, how do you know that you have to check the good and the bad in this other sentient being? You can just see.
So he's saying, how did I know that I have to check the good and the bad in the other sentient being? Again, I didn't make that argument yet. I merely made the argument that I know they're equal. It's the same experience. It's bad in and of itself, intrinsically. The experience itself is the bad thing. So I don't win if I leave it in them. If bad is bad when it happens to me, bad is bad when it's happening to them. It's the same bad. And it logically earns the same treatment.
I wrote the dictionary. Or maybe I did.
Okay, so this is his counter argument. This is how he's demonstrating how what I described as my deduction is circular and illogical, is by changing what I claim to be my way of arriving to these conclusions. So he's saying I'm lying and that I looked in a dictionary.
But either way, I know I'm right because it says I'm right.
That I wrote a dictionary, so he's not even saying I read the dictionary, he's saying I wrote a dictionary, and then in the dictionary I said, yeah, I say I'm right. No, what I say is you haven't made a counter argument. What I'm saying is it's perfectly logical for me to deduce what I have deduced. I've experienced sensations, I've labeled them what they are, which is decidedly negative and positive. And I understand through my own behavioral reaction that I will not pay certain amounts of negative for positive experiences, that the two balance each other in a sense. They are a reciprocal of each other. The bad will consume the value of good. If too much bad comes with something, I won't have the something. That's what I've observed. So you could add that qualifier. But that's it. I've made no statement about any oughts with other people. I've merely said that there's nothing in my experience or in my logic or in my understanding that gives me any reason to think my experiences of good and bad are any different than anybody else's experience of good and bad.
It is dawning then. I'm sure. I've been studying the videos today and I can see the significance of the definitions. It's he says he's trying to find more agreeable words.
No, yeah, I've said I've tried, and you won't accept any word that creates a real negative, and that's just a fact. You just won't allow there to be a negative in the universe. Okay, I can't do anything for you. I can't do anything with that limitation. I'm saying there are real negatives, like negative numbers. It's a negative circumstance. It's a negative condition, and it exists as a reality. It's a fact of life in this universe, and the negative either has to be destroyed, or you have to have a compensating good, or you're running a deficit that can't be acceptable. Period. So, fuck you. This was lame as fuck as usual. Time-wasting bastards. I really hate all these people. Alright, I don't know, maybe I'll do a separate video for Piro, because Piro's done a little stupid video on bad science. He really just doesn't pay any attention to anything. He mentions Bill Grady and his rope theory, and he's entertained by that. He thinks it's funny because he's not hostile to institutional science, and it's because Piro obviously hasn't watched any of the guy's videos. The guy calls Einstein Frankenstein, okay, and actually has an image of Einstein, you know, with things in his neck and a flat head and all that shit. The guy has contempt for all of established science, physics. I mean, Piro just doesn't pay any attention to the videos he critiques or the people, or any. He's just so casual and lazy and sloppy. Ugh, it's just pathetic. So anyway, next video, I'll do another video on that. I'll do a separate video on that one. I haven't even gotten this far. I just don't know whether I want to play it first or, I mean, there's really no point in not playing it first. But I mean, he's just such a liar. It starts off with some lying premise where I somehow speculated that something moves twice the speed of light, which I've never said. I'm a believer in the constant of the speed of light. You're the phantasmagorical who thinks there's such things as wormholes and quantum leaping to the answer to questions. Fuck you.